Chapter 3. There are many dangers for an Andalite in human morph. For one thing, there is the constant danger that you will fall off your 2 legs. The slightest push and you can topple over. But worse by far is the danger of taste. Taste is the sense that can drive an Andalite mad, especially if it involves cinnamon buns or chocolate. From the Earth Diary of Aximili Escaruth Isthel. By the time Marco and Prince Jake had half dragged, half carried me out of the theater, I was calm again. We emerged into a brilliant sunlit area where vehicles are parked. Okay, I think we have learned a lesson here, Prince Jake said. No chocolate for Axe. Chocolate? Chocolate? I said, trying out the word. The brown globules are called chocolate? What about the brightly colored pellets? Actually, the globules are called raisinets. The pellets are M&Ms. Are you under control now, Axe? Prince Jake asked. I couldn't tell if he was angry or amused. Yes, I said shakily. The flavor. It was just so wonderful. Cassie and Rachel emerged from the mall behind me. They watched curiously, but kept their distance. As always, we were careful not to appear to be a group. The controllers are everywhere. Suddenly, I heard a ThoughtSpeak message. Hey, you guys, was the movie that bad? It was Tobias, on patrol far overhead. Of course, no one can answer him. Humans can use thought speech only when they are in morph. And since I was in a human body, I too was restricted to spoken language. There's a kind of thing going on, Tobias said. Just around the corner from you, some guy is staggering around and screaming at the top of his lungs. Cops are coming fast. I'm pretty sure I heard the word Yeerk. He's heading your way. Just then, I began to hear it too. It was a human shouting in a loud, hoarse voice. Over there, Marco said tersely. A man appeared. He seemed to be having difficulty standing up. He leaned against the outer wall of the store and staggered forward. Humans stared at him and moved away. Listen to me! Listen to me! He cried, looking around wildly. They're here! They're here! They're everywhere! The Yeerks are here! My body felt as if it had been jolted with electricity. Human bodies become very tense when surprised. I could see that Prince Jake and Marco were having the same reaction. I heard sirens wailing and drawing closer. What do we do? Marco asked. Prince Jake turned quickly back to Rachel and Cassie. He made a gesture with his hand. Split up, he said. They're here, the man cried. Ah! He suddenly clapped both his hands over his left ear. Got you! Got you! Die! Die! He's a controller, I said. The Yeerk in his head is dying. Jake met my gaze. I know, he said. Been there. I nodded. Jake had been made into a controller, though only for a brief time. We had been able to imprison him and starve the Yeerk. Yeerks live in the brains of other species, but every 3 Earth days they must bathe in the Yeerk pool and soak up Kandrona rays. Without Kandrona rays, they starve and die. Kandrona rays are beamed from the device called a Kandrona. Actually, it's a Kandrona wave/particle generator. The rays are beamed and then concentrated into a Yeerk pool where the Yeerks feed. We had found and destroyed the Earth-based Kandrona. Why is this happening now? Rachel asked. It's been weeks since we destroyed the Kandrona. Nothing ever seemed to happen, so why now? I shrugged my shoulders, the way humans do to indicate ignorance. I don't know, Rachel. Maybe the Yeerks have reached their limit. It would have been a strain on their resources to shuttle controllers back and forth into the mothership. Maybe something was broken. I didn't think things just broke for you, space people, Marco said. Things break, I said truthfully. Break. Ache. Well, whatever. Scratch one, Yeerk, Marco said harshly. The man was screaming now and yanking at his ear. I could see the slimy tip of the dying Yeerk as it slithered out of the man's head. Can't we help him? It was Cassie. She and Rachel had defied Prince Jake's orders to split up. They were with us now as we watched, horrified and transfixed. We have to stay clear of this, Prince Jake said. But maybe it's finally starting. It may just be this one guy, but there may be more. Finally. I expected this to start happening weeks ago. Yeerk's dying. Controller's suddenly free and human again. He grinned. It was a savage look. They'll die and their hosts will be free. At first, people will think they're nuts. But when they have 10, 20, 50 people all yelling about the Yeerks, they won't be able to cover that up. Not for long. His voice had risen, becoming higher, and the words came out faster. He was obviously excited. Suddenly, an ambulance raced up, followed by 2 police cars, all with flashing lights and screaming sirens. Ha, Marco said. I'm sure some of the cops are controllers, but they can't all be. Jake's right. The truth will get out. This is gonna work. The truth is gonna come out. The replacement Kandrona is supposed to be here soon, Rachel pointed out. We should have seen a lot more of this. The Yeerks must have found a way to keep this from happening until now. Rachel is a true warrior. She does not underestimate her enemies. She was not ready to start talking about victory. But the others were all very happy. They believed that many Yeerks would die and the host would be free to tell the whole world the truth. They believed that they had won the war. It made me sad for them because I knew the truth. I knew how the Yeerks operated. I almost told Prince Jake right then. He has a special reason to be hopeful. His brother, Tom, is the controller. There is nothing Prince Jake would want as much as his brother's freedom. But I knew this screaming controller with the dying Yeerk in his head was just an oversight. Something had gone wrong with the Yeerk's secret efforts, but I knew there would be no witnesses. I knew what would happen to this poor, shouting human. Jake was my prince now, my leader. But if I told him, it would lead to questions. And I cannot answer questions, not without revealing the terrible truth behind the law of Sirau's kindness. Humans rushed from the ambulance and the police cars. Most, as Marco had said, were probably true, normal humans. They grabbed the screaming man who was still pulling the Yeerk from his ear. Oh, Lord, what is that? He's pulling his brains out, one policeman cried in horror. The Yeerks, they're here, the human screamed. Die! Die! Get out of me and die! Freedom! The police surrounded the man and hustled him into the ambulance. It was hard to see unless you were expecting it. The moment when one policeman drew a small steel cylinder from his pocket and pressed it against the back of the man's neck. I can't believe it, Cassie exulted. Maybe it's really going to happen. Maybe people will realize the truth. They have a real live Yeerk now, Prince Jake said. They can't cover this up forever. Again, I thought of telling them the truth. That the human was already gone. That the Yeerk slug would crumble into dust. That no evidence would be left behind. But even though these humans were my friends, even though we fought side by side, there were secrets I could not tell them. I could not tell them how a race of parasitic slugs had come to be a danger to the entire galaxy. I could not tell them why we Andalites had to fight the Yeerks, why we had no choice but to fight them, why we hated them so deeply. We have secrets, we Andalites, and the greatest secret of all is our guilt. This is great, Prince Jake said, smiling. Yes, I said. Great. Chapter 4. As the sun rose above the horizon the next morning, I stood by the small stream where I drink each day. Rough grasses mixed with fallen leaves and pine needles ran right down to the water. The sun was just barely visible through a gap in the forest trees. From the water that gave birth to us, I said, and dipped my right forehoof into the water. It was the beginning of the morning ritual. From the grass that feeds us, I said, and moved back to crush a small tuft of grass beneath the same hoof. For the freedom that unites us, I spread my arms wide. We rise to the stars. I looked with all four of my eyes at the rising sun. I sighed. This was really pretty pointless. I had never been a big believer in all the rituals. I mean, if you're going to be a warrior, you have to do it. And any artist that gets caught rushing through the ritual is verbally reprimanded. But still, I was about 1 billion Earth miles from my homeworld. It was hard to see why I should be acting like a good little warrior cadet. I was all alone among aliens. Who cared if I performed the rituals? I bowed low. Freedom is my only cause. Duty to the people, my only guide. Obedience to my prince, my only glory. I hesitated. Tobias had landed in the tree above. The destruction of my enemies, my most solemn vow. I straightened up again, then assumed the fighting stance. I, Aximili Esgroth Isthel, Andalite warrior cadet, offer my life. With that, I drew my tail blade forward and pressed it against my own throat. Then I relaxed my tail. This was the part of the ritual that called for contemplation. You were supposed to think about the parts of the ritual and ask yourself if you were living up to all of it. The destruction of my enemies, my most solemn vow. That was the part that stayed in my thoughts. I had not destroyed my enemy. My enemy was terrible and powerful, and if I tried to destroy him, I would be the one killed. But that did not matter. What mattered was the enemy, the creature who had murdered my brother. Not in battle, but as he lay almost helpless. It was the humans who told me of the rest of Alfangor's story. As the dome went crashing into the Earth's sea, my brother's fighter was damaged by the Yeerks. He landed in an abandoned construction site. There were 5 human youths passing by: Jake, Cassie, Marco, Rachel, and Tobias. Alfangor was dying, and he knew that the Earth was now defenseless. He told the 5 youths about the Yeerk threat, and then he did what he should not have done. He gave them a weapon to fight the Yeerks. He gave them the Andalite power to morph. Never in all of the history has any non-Andalite been given the power to morph. It's against our major law, the law of Sirau's kindness. Only one other creature can morph, the Yeerk who invaded and took over an Andalite body. He is the only Andalite controller. There are hundreds of thousands of Hork-Bajir and Taxons and humans enslaved that way, but only one Andalite. Only one Yeerk has an Andalite body and the power to morph. The abomination, Visser 3. The humans told me of Alfangor's last battle, how Visser 3 had morphed into a huge, monstrous creature, how Alfangor had fought to the very end, lashing out helplessly, how Visser 3 had opened his jaws, and the humans don't know it, But if Alfangor had lived, he would have been in huge trouble. He would have been demoted, at very least. He would have no longer been a prince. Alfangor, as the great hero, would have been finished. The destruction of my enemies, my most solemn vow. I had faced Visser 3 more than once. He was still living. I had no excuse except that I was just an heiress still. If I were a full warrior, it would have been total dishonor for me. Alfangor would have had the courage. If it had been me killed by Visser 3, Alfangor would have gone right after him. But I guess I'm not Alfangor. Hey, Axeman, what's up? I'm fine, Tobias, I said. Actually, I was not fine. Tobias being there reminded me that I had something planned for this morning, and I was nervous. Maybe that's why the morning ritual had not left me feeling calm like it was supposed to. I was planning to do something very frightening. I was planning to go to school. Not to be too curious or anything, but what was that you were doing? I've seen you do it before. The morning ritual. It reminds a warrior to be humble and to serve the people. Sounds good, Tobias said. Yikes. Axe, don't step back. In fact, don't move at all. What is wrong? I asked. Don't you hear that? I listened. That rattling, hissing noise? I've heard that before. It's a rattlesnake, right by your leg. They're poisonous, you know? Ah, no, I didn't know. I turned to face the snake. I saw it coiled in the leaves. What I did not see was when it struck. It was too fast to see, let alone avoid. Luckily, the fangs hit my hoof. I whipped my tail forward and pressed the snake against the ground, holding it immobile. It squirmed and made the rattling sound with its tail. Better get rid of it, Tobias advised. But I had a different idea. I focused on the snake. I began to acquire it, absorbing the snake's DNA into my system. You want to be able to ward for rattlesnake? Tobias asked, sounding dubious. It's very fast, I said, and I have fewer earth morphs than the others. It may be useful someday. The snake had gone limp, the way animals always do when you acquire them. When I was done and the snake's DNA was within me, I used my tail to flip it away into some bushes. So, Tobias asked, are you still going to go ahead with your get to know the humans plan? Yes. I may be on this planet for a long time. I should be using this time to learn about humans. Even though I think I may have behaved badly at the movie. Tobias laughed. He laughed for quite a while. Yeah, I heard about that. You just need to stay away from chocolate. I am not prepared for taste. The experience is very powerful. Perhaps I should not morph into a human anymore. Don't sweat it, Tobias said. But speaking of taste, you realize there's this big mystery about you. A big mystery? Yeah, no one wants to ask you because they think maybe it's rude, but everyone wants to know how you eat with no mouth. How I eat, I repeated, puzzled. Well, I have hooves, don't I? Okay, Tobias said. I'll mind my own business. We started moving through the woods. I ran at a good speed. I enjoyed leaping fallen logs and dodging through dense patches of thorny bushes. I was getting to know this forest well. As I ran and leaped, Tobias flew overhead. At times he would rise through the canopy of trees and disappear from my sight. At other times he would flit from tree to tree, silent and swift. In school, during xenobiology, we had a section on humans, I told Tobias. It mostly involved human television programs, news shows, entertainment. and music. Music? You mean like MTV? You were watching music videos on the Andalite homeworld? I don't remember what they were. I didn't pay very much attention in xenobiology. I wish I had now. A warrior is supposed to be a scientist and an artist, as well as a fighter. But I didn't always enjoy the other stuff, so I didn't pay attention. I suppose humans always pay attention in school. Absolutely, Tobias said. That's why I am such an expert on the War of 1812. A war? Tell me about it. I was kidding. I don't know anything about the War of 1812. We're just about there. Are you ready to start? We had reached a narrow spur of woods. Normally, I would not have dared go this far, because it was surrounded on 3 sides by human habitations. But Tobias was overhead, keeping his incredibly keen eyes out for danger. Yes, I'm ready. Cassie and Jake are coming across the field. Time for you to morph. Time to get human. Tobias, you'll be alone today while I'm with the others. What, like I can't get along without you, Axeman? I have places to go, things to do, feathers to preen, rodents to eat. Besides, Axe, Jake has already asked me to fly cover over the school while you're in there. I don't know why, but it made me feel better to think that Tobias would be in the sky above me all day. Sometimes I think Tobias and I could be true shorm. A shorm is a deep friend, someone you never lie to, someone who knows all your secrets. The word shorm means tailblade. See, it's supposed to mean a person you would trust so much they could put their tailblade right up against your throat and you wouldn't even worry. Sometimes I think Tobias and I could be like that. We are both cut off from our own people. We are both alone. But if we were friends, I would have no secrets from Tobias. And even though he was a hawk in form, he was still a human. And I am an Andalite. And no matter how much I sometimes wished for a real friend, there had to be a wall between my people and the humans. Between me and the humans. Getting too close to any alien species is a mistake. We are taught that. We may protect them, defend them, care for them, but they can never be deep friends. Chapter 5. I have morphed some Andalite animals, and I have morphed many strange earth animals, but the animal I morphed the most is the human animal. They are weak, slow, half-blind, and unstable, but no Andalite should laugh at them. Humans rule their planet, and as the human Rachel once said, Earth is a tough neighborhood. From the Earth Diary of Aximili Escaruth Istel. I peered through the trees. I could see a wide, grassy field. On the far side of the field were several long, squat buildings. There were large yellow vehicles parked in front. Hundreds of young humans milled around the outside of the building. Prince Jake and Cassie had drawn close. Hey, Axe, Prince Jake said. How's it going? Very well, Prince Jake, I answered. You're not going to call me Prince Jake today, are you? When I am in human morph, I will behave as a normal human, I assured him. Well, better go ahead and morph, Cassie suggested. I think we're clear, but I'll go up and take another look, Tobias said. He flapped his wings and rose slowly into the sky. I concentrated on my human morph and began to make the change. Still clear, I heard Tobias call down from above. There are some kids about 200 feet away, but they can't see you. I morphed as quickly as I could, while being careful not to fall over as my third and fourth legs disappeared. At last, I stood on just 2 legs. It's both frightening and exciting. I mean, there you are, tottering back and forth with nothing to hold you up. Your feet can't grip, and they are too short to be much help in balancing. All you can do if you start to fall is stand on one leg while you throw the second leg out to catch yourself. It's very unreliable. I don't know why humans evolved this way. They are the only species on this planet to walk around on just 2 legs, without wings or a tail to hold them up. And I've certainly never heard of any other intelligent species trying to walk this way. Hey, grab him, Prince Jake yelled as I began to lean back. Got him, Cassie said. She helped support me as I finished the morph. Last of all, the mouth appeared, a horizontal split in my face. Are you done? Prince Jake asked me. Yes, I am fully human. The sound delighted me. It's an amazing talent, this ability to make complex sounds. Human. Axe? Don't do that, okay? Prince Jake said. What? That, where you play with every sound like it's a new toy? Yes, my prince, not a toy. Toy. Sorry. This should be interesting, Cassie said, looking at Prince Jake. Tobias came swooping low and rested on a tree branch. It's kind of sweet, he said. Axe's first day of school. His only day of school, Prince Jake said quickly. This is just so he can learn how to be a more believable human. One time. Prince Jake held up a single finger, indicating the number 1. Yes, that is 1, I agreed. Now let's go to school. I am looking forward to it. To it. Remember, you're my cousin Philip from out of state, Jake said, while handing me a bag filled with garments. Philip, I repeated confidently. Philip. I like the sound the letter P makes. I got dressed and set off toward the squat building that was the schoolhouse. Have fun, Tobias said. He sounded just a little wistful in my mind. It was a strange thing, I guess. I, an alien, could go to his school, but he could not. I will, I called back over my shoulder. Unfortunately, bending that way made me fall over. It takes practice to walk on just 2 legs.